and all these outstanding scholars that we've had, their work is like forensic work. Right? Their ability to dig into these words and find clues and build hypotheses and support those hypotheses with certain internal clues, contextual clues, is uncanny. Right? Their ability to kind of anticipate or kind of guess what was happening in the conversation by a single word that was mentioned. This word couldn't have been mentioned unless this is what the person was thinking, or this is what was happening in the outside world. Right? Their ability to do that is uncanny. And something that the Hawza trains these people to do, but they have excelled and exceeded the limits in doing this. So I want to just point out some of the things that Allah was able to figure out from these verses that really flesh out the story for us. So it's not simply these 3 verses, but actually the 3 verses indicate the whole story that we've talked about so far. All right, one thing that he was able to discern from the verses is that there are a couple of clues that tell us that Imran is dead. That Imran is no longer alive when the story takes place in the Quran. One is, if you look right here in this verse, in verse number 35, remember when the wife of Imran said, "My Lord, I dedicate to you what is in my womb." Right, this is the wife speaking, the mother of this child. Right, the mother would not have she couldn't do this. She couldn't decide to devote her child to the service of God without consulting her husband and without him really being the one to do this dedication. Right, certainly in Islamic line, and generally, the right is a shared right. It's not something that either the mother or the father can do and say, I want to give up my child for whatever service, for adoption or for service to God or anything else. Right? It has to be in consultation with the other. They both have rights to the child. Right? So the fact that she independently says, "I do this," indicates that there is no husband at that point, and she's doing this independently. Okay, that's one clue that he was able to find to support this. The fact that Imran is no longer alive. The second clue that he found was that there's a whole debate amongst the priests in the temple. And I didn't share this verse with you. I'll share it with you in a few minutes. There's a whole debate, a whole fight really, a quarrel amongst the priests in the temple over who gets dibs on Maryam, who gets to take care of her. And she's a child. There's something special about her. She's exceptional, and that's why she's been allowed to come into the temple. And they start to fight. Right? They do ikhtisam. They start to argue and quarrel and say, "It's my right because I'm older, my right because I'm from this tribe or that tribe," and they start to fight over this. They end up drawing lots. Right? They end up drawing lots, and the result of the lots is that it goes to Zakaria. So the clue that Allah derived from this whole argument and the fact that they had to resort to drawing lots was that Maryam didn't have a natural guardian. Because if she had a natural guardian, then there would be no room for them to debate and argue, and for them to have to draw lots to do this. And you see that? It's an amazing kind of inferral from what's in the story, what's in the verses of the Quran. And then we have traditions to support that. Right? But the Quran itself indicates this, that she didn't have a father at that time, he had passed away. One of my teachers, he heard from Allama Tabatabai when he used to attend his classes. He said that one of the things that he used to do, kind of behind the scenes, before he would come, he offered a class. Like over 20 years, he was teaching, and as he was teaching, the teaching was the grounds for testing his ideas and thoughts, and then he would write them into al-mizan. That's how the Hawza works generally. Even this work, and this is a very small work compared to what happens at the Hawza, but it's a process. It's not like the teacher is an expert and knows the beginning and the end of the story, and then comes and tells you the whole thing. Rather, it's a process, and as the teacher learns and studies and researches and comes to conclusions, then he shares it with his students and says, "Here, this is what I found so far." The next day, he might go back and say, "I just found something today that negates everything I said yesterday. Let's start over and scratch that, and here's the new piece of evidence." But one of the things that Allama Tabatabai used to do was he used to kind of cheat. What I mean by cheating, he would first look at the ahadith from the Ahlul Bayt and see what they said about verses. Right? So it's almost like those quiz, like puzzle books and stuff. They have the answers in the back, right? You kind of peek in the back of the book and see, oh, there's the answer, and then you're, oh yeah, I know all these answers. Right? So that's what he would do, right? Because he of course he knows who the Ahlul Bayt are, and he knows that they know the Quran better than anyone else. So he would look at their ahadith first and see what they say about the verses, and he would use that as kind of a guide, right, to then look at the verses of the Quran and see what evidence there is in the verses themselves that would lead him to those, the indications from those ahadith, those traditions. Alright, so that's one of the interesting points that Allah Ta'ala came up with from this verse, that Imran is passed away, and these are some of the clues for that. Recite the salawat, please. Alright, another thing to think about is this word muharrara. If you look, fi batni muharrara. Muharrar, it comes from the word tahrir. From the story of Karbala, we know about Hur. Right? Hur, his name means free. And there's a famous interaction between Imam Hussein and Hur where he says, "You are now free as your mother named you free." Right? She named you Hur, meaning free. Now you've achieved your name. You are now free because you freed yourself of Muawiyah, of Yazid, and all these other things, and you freed yourself to serve Allah, and you died for Allah as well. Right? So Hur, the root harara means to be free. Right? Tahrir means to free someone. It's used to free slaves. Right? In the older days when they would have a slave that they owned, when they freed the slave, one of the words that they would use is tahrir, called tahrir riq, right? To free your slave. Here it doesn't, in this context, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the child is not a slave to be freed, so that doesn't make any sense. What tahrir represents here is what I indicated earlier briefly, is that the parents, they have these rights over the child to be the parent, to act as a parent, to raise that child as their own child. That's a right of the parents. You think of it more as a responsibility, which it is. It's a responsibility, and the child has a right over his parents as well, that they take good care of him. But it's also a right of the parents to be able to have children, right? And to take care of their children, of course. So since it's a right, we can also always renounce our rights. That's the nature of rights. When you have a right is given to you, but you can renounce that right as the person who possesses that right, who's been given that right by God. You can say, I forego this right, and I'm not going to hold you accountable for fulfilling this right to me, this obligation to me. So tahrir then is to kind of free your child from not bondage of slavery, but the bounds or the binds of this relationship of parent and child. Right, so the parent no longer has that right to raise the child or to command the child and have the child obey him. He also doesn't have the right anymore to benefit